we don't mind. We're looking for the obvious cases of people you can trust.
How you spot that precisely, leave your lunch money on their desk sometime. Yeah, maybe you'll find out in a hurry. But
Warren Buffett, the sage of investments, strides amidst the financial tempest, unveiling a startling truth that propels him to make ruthless decisions each day.
if we work with someone over a period of a few months or more, I think we can come up with a pretty high batting average in terms of how they behave. At Solomon, I think I was able to separate out the people who I felt very good about and the people I was a little more nervous about fairly quickly among the ones I worked with actively.
Charlie and I have had very good luck in terms of buying businesses and putting our trust in people. It's been just overwhelmingly good, but we filter out a lot of people. And then they say, how do you filter them out? I would say, and I think Charlie will agree with this, people give themselves away fairly often, and maybe it does help to have been around as long as we have.
That is a key question, because when we buy businesses, we don't have managers to put in them. I mean, we're not buying them that way. We don't have a lot of MBAs around the office that we're...
Thank God.
Yeah.
When somebody comes to me with a business, then I probably shouldn't tell this publicly because they'll probably tailor their approach subsequently. But when they come, just the very things they talk about, what they regard as important and not important, there are a lot of clues that come as the subsequent behavior.
You know, I have not promised that they're going to have all kinds of opportunities. So as a practical matter, we need management with the businesses that we buy. And 3 times out of 4 or thereabouts, the manager is the owner and is receiving tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. So they don't have to work.
With an unflinching gaze into the heart of commerce, he imparts the wisdom of survival, revealing the harsh choices made in the pursuit of preserving his empire.
Anybody that implicit in their comments or what they kind of laugh about or all kinds of things in terms of the fact, you know, it's so easy and it ain't that easy, you know, and we get suspicious very quickly. And the truth is we rule out 90% of the times, and we may be wrong about a fair number that we're ruling out. The important thing is whether the ones we're ruling in we're right about. And so we don't mind. We're looking for the obvious cases of people you can trust.
We have had extremely good luck in identifying people who love their business. And so all we have to do is avoid anything that on our part that diminishes that love of the business or makes other conditions so intolerable that they overcome that love of the business. And we have a number of people working for us that have no financial need to work at all. But how you spot that precisely, leave your lunch money on their desk sometime. Yeah, maybe you'll find out in a hurry. But we like people. You know, the great example, is somebody like a Tom Murphy, where they're just bending over backwards all the time to make sure that you get the better end of the deal, or that doesn't mean they aren't competitive. I mean, if you play him a golf game for money or something like that, he wants to win the worst way. But there are people that they don't take credit for things that they didn't do. In fact, they give you credit for some of the things that maybe they did. And you can get a feel for it over time.
His words echo with the weight of responsibility, resounding through the world of employment, compelling us to examine the sacrifices demanded at the zenith of industry.
We virtually had no mistakes in that respect. And we have identified a number of people, Charlie and I have, in terms of proposals to us, where we felt that they liked the money better than the business. They were kind of tired of the business, and they might promise us that they would continue on and they would do it in good faith, But something would happen 6 months later or a year later, and they'd say to themselves, why am I doing this, for Berkshire Hathaway when I could be doing whatever else they want to do? I can't tell you exactly what filter it is that we put them through mentally, but I can tell you that if you've been around a while, I think you can have a pretty high batting average in coming to those conclusions, as you can about other aspects of human behavior. I'm not saying you can take 100 people and take a look at them and analyze their personalities or anything of the sort, but I think when you see the extreme cases, the ones that are going to cause you nothing but trouble, or the ones that are going to bring you nothing but joy, I think you can identify those pretty well. Johnny Agnelli one time told me, he said, when you get older, you have the reputation you deserve. He said, you can get away with it for a while early on, but by the time anybody gets to be 60 or so, they very probably have the reputation you deserve. And the truth is, you can have the reputation that you want. If you list all of the things that you admire in other people, you'll find out that almost everything you list, you may not be able to kick a football 60 yards or something of that sort, but almost everything you list in the people that you admire and like, they're qualities that you can have if you just set out to do that.
I had 5 bosses in my life, and I liked all 5 of them, and 2 of them were just huge factors in making my life better. But I liked all 5 of them. A couple of them were, some people here, J.C. Penney, Cooper Smith. I worked at 75 cents an hour, and I love working at Penny's. Well, I didn't love working at Penny's, but I love working for Cooper Smith, and it was 75 cents an hour. But I had to do what they told me to do, which was to sell men's shirts first, then men's clothing, then children's clothing, and so on. And I loved working for the newspaper, and I had a great manager when I was at University of Nebraska. Got to work for Ben Graham. I mean, everything worked out, but there's nothing like working for yourself.
Within this revelation unfolds a tapestry of corporate strategy, inviting everyone to dissect the essence of leadership and the unyielding trials that shape the captain of industry.
Master of Tack the other day, when he says you always ought to interact with people who behave well. He says, of course, you have to make some exceptions to your family, but but it's true. And you really, I don't know what it's like to have, a drunken, bullyish, probably father, but parent just generally. How do you handle it? It's very interesting that the MacArthur family, the very famous John MacArthur, the man that set up the MacArthur Foundation, he had 5 kids, and 4 of them turned out to be superstars of one sort or another, and they had this crazy itinerant drunken father, but they all decided that the thing to do was get the hell out of the house. and so you had the father of the MacArthur Foundation that did that along with 3 of the siblings out of 5. So, I was lucky. Charlie was lucky. If you have our father saw plenty of shortcomings in both of us, but it would still be there for us. And if you have one that won't be there for you, it's a very tough problem. And I think one way or another, I probably would have gotten through that if I had that situation. And if you can't own a big company, working at Berkshire Hathaway or running a company is the closest thing you will get. You don't have to spend time courting analysts who you probably have contempt for in many cases. You don't have to spend time with banks, getting money, and particularly in terrible times. There's all kinds of you get a lot in the way of freedom that I would think would be meaningful to me. And it might be better if you own the whole place yourself, but maybe you've got siblings that want out. Maybe there's a million reasons why you may not be able to achieve that unless you sell to Berkshire. And that's easier probably if you have a family business where people want to go in different directions than it is with a public company. But there's still possibilities there. So that's why I think if I owned a public company and it was worth great many billions of dollars, and Berkshire Hathaway wanted to buy it, and the shareholders were willing to vote it, I would, consider the way I would feel about life. For one thing, I wouldn't want to retire at 65. I'd want to keep working.
The spotlight narrows on Warren Buffett, a titan in the realm of finance, illuminating the relentless demands that come with the throne, urging us all to brace ourselves for the price of prosperity.
We've never been burned by we've been burned only in the sense that we made mistakes on judging the future economics of the business, which would have had nothing to do with due diligence. We regard what people normally refer to due diligence as really sort of boilerplate in most cases. It's a process that big companies go through, and they feel they have to go through it, and they're ignoring, oftentimes in our view, they're ignoring what really counts, which is evaluating the people they're getting in with it and evaluating the economics of the business. That's 99% of the deal. You may run into an environmental liability problem, one time in 100, or you may find a bad lease. I asked Melvin about, do you have any bad leases? I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. And I can read them all and try and look for every clause or something, but it isn't going to, that is not the problem. We've made lots of bad deals. We made a bad deal when we bought Hochschild Kohn, for example, the department store operation back in 1966. But it had fine people, but we were wrong on the economics of the business. But the leases didn't make any difference, or that sort of thing just was not important. And I can't recall any time that what other people refer to as due diligence would have avoided a bad deal for us. I can't either. No, that's 30-some years.
Well, the most important purchase in retrospect that we may have made was National Indemnity, not because specifically what it did, but what it led to. And Jack Ringwald controlled the company. And I knew him and liked him, and he knew me. And once a year, he'd get irritated when the Nebraska Department of Insurance or somebody would come around, and he said they always came around when the exorbitant racetrack was open, so they could. I mean, he had all these theories about why it was a pain in the neck to be regulated, and I told Charlie Hyder, next time Jack is in that mood where he's ready to sell just because he's tired of fooling around with all these guys, be sure and find him. And so Charlie called me one day and he says, Jack is in the heat. And I said, bring him over. And we made a deal. Well, that's why Jack sold. And he was happy after he made the deal. And I was happy after we made the deal. So there's a man that controlled the business, but just decided these people didn't seem to bother him as much once they were my problem and not his. And you just can't tell when lightning will strike. And that didn't do magnificent things for us initially, but just look at what it led to, and then, so you never, if you knew how you were going to, if you knew how you were going to shoot all 18 holes, it wouldn't be any fun playing. You wouldn't get on the first tee. I mean, it's the uncertainty, the fun of playing the game, the opponents, all kinds of things that make a game interesting. And I think Charlie and I are in the most interesting game in the world.
In this age of financial scrutiny, Warren Buffett stands as a beacon of pragmatism, reminding us that in the stormy seas of business, sometimes tough choices must be made to navigate to the shores of success.
The kind of people that we've generally dealt with have usually told us the bad things first and good things after we made the deal. we made a deal with a fellow over in Rockford in 1969, Eugene Abeg, the Illinois National Bank and Trust Company. I made that deal in a couple of hours. And I mean, there just wasn't any way that Gene was going to be hiding anything then. For the next 10 years, when I went over there, every time I go to lunch, he'd point out some building in town that we owned that wasn't on the books, or some foundation we had that had money in it that he hadn't told me about. And he even gave me some bills, one of which I carry in my pocket, that he had still sitting around that were issued by the bank, that were our own money, which he never told me about. We could cut them out like paper dolls. I mean, Gene was not a guy to show all his cards. And those are the kind of people we've generally dealt with. And I would certainly say that that Melvin and Shirley fit that description in spades.